Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our NXT review, and this was NXT Championship Edition, because we had not one, but two title matches on this episode, both the NXT Women's Championship and the NXT World Championship were defended. And you know what? I thoroughly enjoyed this episode of NXT. It had storyline progression for a lot of people. Some characters really got to shine. Just another great hour of wrestling. Ashton, what did you think of it?
Yeah, this episode of NXT was bookended by two very good championship matches, and in between those two matches was probably the most actual story progression that I've seen in NXT in months. It was actually really impressive because really there was only one segment throughout the entire night that was meant to really build up for the main event, and everything else was moving forward with some kind of storyline, whether it was the Ascension kind of trying to haze Hideo Itami, the whole Enzo Cass Carmella thing, the advancement of Baron Corbin as an in-ring talent, Sylvester Lafort and Marcus Louis challenging Enzo and Cass, the Vaudevillains getting a push with the All-Americans returning, and Funaki talking about how he's got Hideo Itami's back, and Bayley kind of keeping the whole her versus Charlotte storyline going. Like, there was just so much in this one show that it was genuinely impressive to me.
Absolutely. With those sentiments expressed, I say we go right into our first segment, Heat of the Night, which for me, you could practically skip over when it comes to NXT. I have 0 heats of the night for this show.
Yeah, and then I did have one Heat of the Night last week, but that was an anomaly. Most times I don't, and by most times I mean including this time. So
there you go. So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review. And Ashton, considering that it was Championship Edition, we open up with our first championship contest, Bayley versus Charlotte for the NXT Women's Championship.
Yes, and this was yet another really solid match between these women. It wasn't as good as their Arrival Fatal 4 or their Takeover Fatal 4-Way match, but it was still better than most women's matches on the main roster. For the first time in probably 2 or 3 months, I actually got my mom to watch this episode of NXT with us. She usually just watches Raw, and believe it or not, she's more progressive about watching SmackDown than either you or I are.
Yeah, I've noticed that, man.
But yeah, I haven't gotten her to watch NXT in a while because she was such a huge fan of guys like Corey Graves, who retired, and I'm trying to think of who else she really, really liked. But all of the people that she really, really liked aren't on the show anymore. Like, she was huge into Corey Graves, and there was one other guy that I just can't place that she was really into. But now I got her to watch it, and she said after the match is over that she's surprised at how much better NXT women are than Raw. And, I mean, all I could really say was, yeah, they wouldn't be if they didn't get as much time as they did, because, like, NXT, like, Paige or AJ is better in the ring than either one of the individuals in this match, but they got so much more time to tell a story that it just made it seem like they were better.
And that closing sentiment, Ashton, is precisely what I loved most about this match. The story they told in the ring.
Yeah. They can get anyone invested, man, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. It's the classic heel picking a body part, because Charlotte really worked over the leg of Bayley throughout this match. But that created an environment of sympathy for which Bayley would have to fight back up, and we're rallying behind her. And it works. I love that they got to tell this story. I thought the execution was solid, on point, and it led to a great championship bout. It only makes Bayley seem, it really makes her seem like not only that underdog, but somebody who should be taken seriously. somebody who should be taken seriously, somebody who really comes closer and closer each time. She's almost got like that Christian quality. Like, you know, when he was a
she just
babyface.
needs one more match.
Yeah, just needs one more match, and every time she's chasing the championship, she just gets a little better each time. I think she even said later on in the night when discussing the match. But yeah, it was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, that's like that one time when Christian would go for a sunset flip, and then Randy Orton caught him with an RKO, and then the next match he faked Orton out and then did something else.
Exactly. Yeah. Or maybe like in that match, maybe he wouldn't get a spear or a kill switch, but then the next match he would get one of those moves off.
Dude, of all of the forms of continuity in the WWE, my favorite form of continuity is match continuity. Like, stuff like that, when guys remember to throw little hints and tidbits in there, like what Christian did during that feud, it just makes it so much better for me. That's one of my favorite feuds, I'm going to say, of all time. That Randy Orton Christian feud, it was so good, and the matches they produced, oh my god.
And I feel like these women can do something similar. Though on a side note, I too love that feud, especially if you're like a wrestling enthusiast and you love the technical aspect. Good God. But yeah, I feel like those two women possess similar qualities if they keep getting in the ring with each other. Even if you throw other people into the mix, hint, hint, wink, wink, cough, cough. I feel like they can really show that, because I could see Charlotte maybe going for natural selection and Bayley finding a way to block. Or, just something of that nature. And yeah, I enjoyed this bout. I agree with you. I don't think it was as good as their TakeOver Fatal 4-Way bout, but for the story they got to tell, and I was very impressed again by the execution, I thought this was a great title bout.
Yeah, it was really solid. I did have one minor nitpick about this, though, and that is that at one point Charlotte had the figure 4 leg lock locked in on Bayley. I think she's going to start calling it the figure 8 from now on, because it's like twice as good as everyone else. But she went up into like a crab walk stance while she had the figure 4 locked in, and it bugged me, because as cool as it might have looked, and don't get me wrong, it looked really freaking cool, but as cool as it might have looked, it would have been less effective than a normal figure 4, because the way to make a figure 4 hurt more is to straighten out your own legs, and she literally just bent her legs more to make it less effective. So, like I said, as cool as it looks, it's actually less effective than an actual figure 4. So, I don't know if they're going to try and build up the fact that it's more painful because she has her hips so high, and Ric Flair always kind of sold it as the higher your hips are, the more painful it is. But at the end of the day, the straighter your legs are, the more painful it is, because the whole point is you're using the other person's ankle to break their knee, and you can't really do that when your legs are up in that high of an arc.
And I hope somebody has a private talk with Charlotte about that, because I mean, with the flexibility,
no one will.
Yeah.
I don't even think Ric Flair will.
No, I don't think he will either. But
I mean, if anybody is the authority on that kind of thing, it would be him. But I still don't think he's going to.
Because, Charlotte possesses the flexibility. I don't think there's any reason why she couldn't straighten her legs out and really make that an excruciating hold. But if that's the way they want to go with it, I'll try and block out of my mind, that, there is a more effective way. Because, like you, at least aesthetically, it does look pretty awesome. So, you know what? I'll just give it to her, I guess. Plus, natural selection is a pretty boss finisher, I think, as well, that she has in her arsenal. She does hit it on Bayley here for the win. After the match, again, they do exchange respect. Charlotte actually hugging Bayley, telling her, thank you. I think she actually told Bayley, you make me better when we're in the ring together. So it was a great show of respect. And Charlotte is still the NXT Women's Champion.
Absolutely. She is still the women's champion, and we can move on. Our first non-title match of the night was actually Rick Victor versus Hideo Itami in Hideo Itami's second match of his very young career in NXT.
Yes. Although, for what went down, I'd call this less of a match and more of a beatdown, because...
Did the bell ever even ring?
The bell never even rang, and the Ascension mauled Hideo Itami.
Yeah.
I mean, they really put the boots to him. And then, when they really beat him down enough, they did a double team maneuver where I think it was Connor who got Hideo Itami in like a back suplex position, and then Victor came off the top with what looked like a clothesline off the top or something. And, they all collided on Hideo. Hideo was just laid to waste. And and this is the
He
one.
sold the crap out
Yeah,
of it, dude. Holy crap. It was so good.
exactly. That was the highlight of this for me. We got to really see the selling ability of Hideo Itami because he sold it like a pro. Absolutely wonderful.
He sold it like death.
So, yeah, I mean, there's really not much to comment on this, because it was a beatdown. So unless you have anything else to say, we can move on.
And to me, the best part about his ability to sell it was that he didn't just sell it like Dolph Ziggler, where with Dolph Ziggler, a lot of the time when he sells, it's like he's overdoing it. But with this, it was more like a sympathy gainer, man. Like it wasn't even just that he was selling for the sake of selling. Like, he looked pathetic. And I don't mean pathetic in a bad way. I mean pathetic in like a, dang, man, are you going to be okay? Like,
Exactly.
I feel like the refs that were checking him weren't doing a good enough job because he was freaking out of it. Like, he managed to somehow get an actual glazed over look in his eyes. Like, I don't understand. It's so good.
You know what? It's like, if I didn't know any better, I'm watching this product and I'm buying into all of it and everything, I would have said, oh my God, that man's concussed. He has a concussion or something, because he just sold it that well to me. He just had that full away look in his eyes, like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
And yeah, so because of that great sell job, it really makes me that much more want Hideo Itami to get his comeuppance on the Ascension. So.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Up next, we got our Cass, Enzo, Carmella video. They're in a training ring, and they're basically, Enzo and Carmella are basically in the ring to spar, I guess. And Enzo is kind of asking her to give him his best shot, and he keeps on kind of harassing her. And next thing you know, what did she do, John? I forget.
She drop kicked Enzo out of the ring.
That's right. She drop kicked him, and then he rolled out of the ring, and he goes, "Did you see that, bro?" And then Carmella is like taunting him, and then Cass turns the camera around and he goes, "Yes, I did. Yes, it happened." And then he turns it back around and then just says, "Don't post that one." And Cass is just like, "Oh, don't worry, I won't." And then he does anyway because we saw the video.
Yeah, it's kind of the running shtick with these backstage things. Really enjoyed this. I've got to say, I've been reading that these guys are a huge hit, I think, internally. So this act, I think, is going to get more and more exposure as time progresses. And guess what? This guy is totally okay with that. You guys know by now that both me and Ashton are huge fans of Enzo and Big Cass. And as far as the Carmella edition, I like it. It's an interesting new NXT women's competitor, especially if she carries an attitude like Enzo and Big Cass. I think that could lead to some hilarity or just, some great moments. So I'm intrigued what she's going to do when she finally gets in the ring. And as far as the act as a whole, I'm a fan, so it gets the thumbs up for me.
Yeah. All right. Anything really left to say about it? It was kind of a quick little joke, almost like a gag kind of reel. Not really a lot to say here. I'm intrigued by where they go with it though.
Right, yeah, nothing more to say than that, really.
All right, up next we got Baron Corbin versus Jobber number 3, aka Troy McClain, and Corbin did his usual thing. He squashed McClain, but yeah, I mean, these matches are getting little tiny bits added to them each time. It's kind of like what they did with Ryback back in the day on WWE television. Each match that Baron Corbin has, he kind of shows everybody a new trick that he has in his book that we didn't know about.
I just, much like Ryback, but I've come to really appreciate this as a good thing rather than as like a nitpick or a pet peeve, because every match he has, I do want to see Baron Corbin push to his limits. I can't wait for that first match that really reveals to all of us how deep the well of Baron Corbin's offense goes. And, we saw a little bit more, the right hands, just the sheer power. And that finisher, the end of days, is awesome. I mean, there have been a lot of power players in the WWE, but just demonstrating your power in that way, I can't remember the last time showing off that kind of power was that cool looking. So I can't wait for Baron Corbin's first official challenge, his first real test. And until then, I'm just enjoying the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Not really a lot to add here. This is just a squash match that kind of showed off Baron Corbin as almost like an exhibition kind of thing. So up next, Tyson Kidd got a WWE.com exclusive that apparently wasn't super exclusive because it also got shown on the WWE Network. And basically he just cut a promo talking about how this is going to be his real opportunity, one-on-one. There's going to be no Sami Zayn, no Tyler Breeze, not even a William Regal getting involved, and it's just going to be him and Neville one-on-one for the title. And he's happy about that, so.
Yeah, and then I think that's right. The interviewer asked him how he felt about the fact that he only got this title shot because of his wife, going to William Regal, and Tyson looked incredibly perturbed by that, and he walked off. So clearly, again, still playing up the fact that, Natty's husband is the biggest thing you're known for.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, other than that, I enjoyed this. Fact. So that's all I gotta say.
All right. Up next, we had a really, really short clip of Sylvester Lefort and Marcus Louis challenging Enzo and Cass to a tag team match. So not really anything substantial here. We didn't even get to see if Enzo and Cass accepted, but we do know that Sylvester Lefort and Marcus Louis are still interested in fighting them.
Yeah, and LaFord offered Louis a wig he had yet to try on, and Louis grabs it angrily, and he says, "Revenge!" So the face
Marcus Louis is basically a cartoon character at this point.
He really is, but I gotta say, he has some genuinely creepy, emotive, angry faces going on now that he's got this shaved head.
Yeah.
He could almost be like the French version of Kane when he unmasked for the first time.
Well, I mean, it's got a lot to do with the fact that he doesn't have any eyebrows anymore. That's such a humanizing factor that people don't realize. Joey Mercury doesn't have eyebrows, but he also has this puppy dog face that makes him super relatable looking. So it's kind of hard to knock him for it. But yeah, Marcus Louis definitely doesn't have the right face to pull off the no eyebrow look.
Yeah, certainly not. So yeah, an enjoyable segment. Clearly the feud's going to continue. I'm wondering if Marcus Louis at any point is going to turn on LaFort. We know LaFort's going to lose his hair inevitably. I think that's the ultimate end game of this angle. But everything in between I think is kind of up in the air, so we'll see.
Just as long as they don't take that glorious beard away.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, up next was our third match of the night. Vaudevillains come out, and their opponents are the team that we refer to as the All-Americans, aka Ty Dillinger and Jason Jordan. Dude, I feel like I heap praise on Ty Dillinger more than anybody else on the planet. I freaking love this guy. He's so good.
Yeah, I love both guys, but I'm definitely seeing more and more what you mean with Ty Dillinger. But what I really want to focus on, as you know, because I recently came out as a really huge fan of these guys. The Vaudevillains, I think, were the baby faces in this match, which was really weird for me.
I loved it though, because with the All-Americans, it's these two good-looking, ripped, super athletic guys. Why would they be humble?
Right. Very brash, very arrogant, and it just has a very natural quality to it because they possess the qualities that you just mentioned, Ashton. Whereas you've got Simon Gotch and Aiden English, and, clearly, they're like the throwback, as I like to refer to them, at a much simpler time.
I don't know if I would call them the throwback, because to me it's like the high school drama club decided to wrestle. We're gonna go into wrestling now, and they just never looked back.
I will say this, and this is my only nitpick of the night, but I wanted to mention it for this particular segment. I'm not the biggest fan yet of the Vaudevillains' new theme music. I think I'll have to listen to it a few more times before I come around to it, like I did for Sami Zayn's theme. So yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that. I love their old one much better. But the biggest praise here, surprisingly for me, goes to commentary. Because they did a great job of building up the Vaudevillains, mentioning the fact that they've only lost one match since teaming together, and that was to the freaking current tag team champions, Lucha Dragons. So they did a great job really establishing the credibility of the Vaudevillains, and I think that also served as a tease for the fact that, yeah, we may be seeing a Vaudevillains Lucha Dragons feud very soon for the tag titles.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sorry. Who did you say you thought was going to be feuding with the Lucha Dragons for the tag titles?
The Vaudevillains, because
see, and you know what? I do agree with you, but honestly, I think that I personally would be able to get more invested in the All Americans going after the tag titles. Maybe that's like a long-term plan, but I really like these guys, and I just want to see more of them. And you know what? Jason Jordan's cool and all, but it's more Ty Dillinger than Jason Jordan. It's more just, I want to see Ty Dillinger get a push, and I don't care how it is, whether it's solo or with a tag team with Jason Jordan. This dude, I see a quality in him, kind of like the way I saw a quality in Corey Graves back in FCW when nobody freaking knew about him. Like, I feel like Ty Dillinger is going to become that guy for me because nobody's talking about this guy at all. And like, when I say I'm active in the community, I mean like on Reddit is more specifically, and I am on there every single day, not necessarily for a long time each day, but I'm on there at least once or twice a day, just kind of catching up on any kind of news and topics that get voted to the front page and new topics and stuff like that. And like, I never see anybody talking about Ty Dillinger at all, and I feel like I want to make a topic about him because, like, I just think he's so good. Like, at one point in this match, Aiden English did something, and Ty Dillinger reversed it and sent him into the corner, and then Aiden English did, like, his goofy little bow thing that he does, and Ty Dillinger started doing peck pops with this shit-eating grin on his face. I was like, this guy has an it factor, and like, oh, I don't know. I think that I just really want to see him get featured more so that I can kind of solidify my opinion on him, because I see a lot in him from a potential standpoint, but I want to see if it's like that Mojo Rawley untapped potential that we're never going to really see, or if it's potential that he kind of knows that he has and that he's just going to kind of show as he gets opportunities to show it.
Right, I completely get where you're coming from, and I love that we have these discussions on guys like Ty Dillinger, who normally in other places wouldn't get a venue or a platform for discussion. So I really do appreciate that every time we come here and we do this. And the funny thing is, I'm right there with you. I wouldn't mind the All-Americans feuding with the Lucha Dragons over the NXT Tag Team Championships. And that's the funny thing about NXT's, well, I guess you could really make the argument all their divisions, but I really specifically think tag division, is that you never know what the hot attraction's going to be for that time. I mean, because really, I'm still waiting on the Mechanics to make a splash after only having one match. And I don't know what's going on with that. I just saw recently a TOW video for an NXT live event for Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy. You know, like, we've got these teams, like all these teams in the woodwork, but you never know who's going to make an emergence and really make a presence, you know? And the All-Americans, I think, are higher up than both of the teams I just mentioned previously, so I think they will get a future NXT Tag Team Championship opportunity, if you want me to be honest, but I don't know if it'll be for quite some time. Although I would put them immediately behind the Vaudevillains for my money, because they have a bigger presence on NXT usually than most other teams. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So up now, are we done talking about this match? We established that the Vaudevillains won and everything, right?
Yeah, Vaudevillains won with their double team finisher. You know, Simon Gotch with the steamroller, and then Aiden English follows it up with a senton. Vaudevillains get the win.
And then after the match, they showed Titus O'Neil walking into the crowd and having a seat, and then kind of showing off that he has a ticket. So he's a thing.
Yeah.
All right, our next actual segment, though, we got Hideo Itami backstage getting tended to. He has ice on his shoulder. And then Funaki shows up, and he's talking to him, and I don't remember exactly what he says, but at one point he does say, "I've got your back," and Hideo Itami just looked like he was just handed a brand new puppy for Christmas. He looked so happy, and the facial expression was on point, and this was a great segment. I feel like Hideo Itami is compensating for his lack of elite English speaking ability with elite acting ability between his facial expressions and his selling and his body language. Like, everything is just so on point for this guy.
You know, there was one point when Randy Orton was really coming to his own as, like, the heel like Viper, you know, beyond his punting phase, where I said that body language would be the new art of, like, promo delivery, like Randy Orton was laying the groundwork, and I think we see that here, as you said, with Hideo Itami. I completely agree with you. Because, yeah, I saw that look on his face, and he's really selling being that newcomer that nobody wants exceptionally well, because I think even going back to the beatdown segment, commentary even mentioned, like, oh, somebody's going to come out and help him, and nobody did. I mean, they're really playing up that he has no allies because they feel like he's transgressing on their turf, that he doesn't belong. And to have an ally in a foreign land, so to speak, like Funaki, I think it is really welcomed for Itami, so I'm intrigued where that goes.
Yeah. So, what do you think this is going to lead to? Do you think this is going to lead to Hideo Itami and Funaki taking on the Ascension, or do you think this is just like a random one-time thing where Hideo's going to get beat down and Funaki's going to show up to run the Ascension off?
I think both.
Do you think they're going to use Funaki as sympathy fodder?
You know what? I do think Funaki may have, like, one match in an NXT ring. I mean, hell, we've seen Scotty 2 Hotty compete on NXT,
Yeah.
so why not Funaki? So yeah, I could definitely see a tag match happening.
Yeah. All right. Well, up next we had a Bayley interview, and she cut a very inspirational promo talking about how even though she hasn't beaten Charlotte yet, she knows that she can do it.
Yeah, she says, you know, I can't quit because if I quit, all the girls that look up to me, they'll quit, and I can't do that. And yeah, it's typical babyface stuff. But then the great part of the segment came when Sasha Banks attacked Bayley, and she grabbed her by the hair scrunchie and said, you know, when I get my opportunity, I'm gonna show that I'm the baddest boss in NXT. Of course, by opportunity, I mean that she said opportunity at Charlotte in the NXT Women's Championship, which tells me that Sasha is throwing her name in the ring, which, oh my goodness, Sasha Banks and Charlotte feud for the NXT Women's Championship.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I love Sasha Banks. She's so good. Like, here's the thing, again, like I said earlier, my mom watched this episode, and as soon as Sasha started talking and she said some of the stuff that she did to Bayley, she said, "What a bitch." And I'm just thinking, yeah, she's such a great heel.
Exactly. You know what, dude? I'm really hoping, because again, Charlotte is such a weird case because she's babyface one week and heel the next.
Yeah, like that. Honestly, dude, I was kind of tempted to go Heat of the Night with that because it's like, why aren't they making up their mind? But I can't really complain too much because she's just so good.
And, you know, that's the thing. Like, if they're going to show more consistency with her being a babyface, which I feel like is somewhat happening given her post-match reaction to TakeOver Fatal 4-Way, and, like, again here tonight in her championship match against Bayley. So if she's going to be more of a babyface in upcoming feuds, I do really hope that Sasha Banks takes the championship off of her, and we give, like, Charlotte a reason to fight and Bayley a reason to fight because, you know, she was attacked. I think Sasha could be a great heat magnet with that championship in tow. So...
Yeah. All right. Well, up next was our main event of the evening. Adrian Neville, Tyson Kidd, NXT Championship. And, you know, it's sad that I'm about to say this, but a lot like Raw main events, this ended with shenanigans.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it was a great back and forth match. There was one great spot that I only really remember because of Ashton's commentary on it while we were watching it together, where Tyson had Adrian Neville in a triangle, and Neville tried breaking it, you know, through pure strength, tried to powerbomb his way out of it. He fails the first two times and gets it on the third attempt, which I remember, Ashton, you noted you were really impressed by that because other babyfaces like John Cena would have powered straight through, you know, the first time around. So it really showed the struggle, which I agree with you. I really like that. And yeah, a lot of great back and forth. But again, again, if you've seen Tyson Kidd and Adrian Neville compete, and I don't say this in a bad way because I've enjoyed all their matches, but you kind of know some of the offense to expect here. And yeah, the match does end in shenanigans because Tyson Kidd is laid out looking like he's going to be a victim of a red arrow, but Adrian Neville found himself on the outside, I think, whatever offense he administered to get to that point. Titus comes up from his seat, nails Adrian Neville with like a big right hand, and then Sami Zayn comes out of nowhere and he nails a haluva kick to Titus, knocking him out. And then the referee's got a count going, so I'm thinking, oh crap, is Tyson going to win by count out? Champion's advantage, and we drag this out even longer. But Neville actually gets in the ring at 9. Tyson tries setting Adrian Neville up for a suplex, but of course, Adrian Neville ends up suplexing Tyson, setting him up in perfect position for the red arrow, which Adrian Neville connects and gets the 3 count.
Yeah.
And then we see kind of a teaser between Sami Zayn and Adrian Neville. Sami saying, I want you to be the champion. I want you to be the one that I take it from. So I think now we really are on the fast track with the Sami Zayn Adrian Neville feud.
What?
I said now I feel like we're really on the fast track of having an Adrian Neville Sami Zayn feud for the title.
I don't think fast track is an appropriate word to use, dude. I think that this is still slow burn. I still think they're going to wait for the next live special to have that match even happen. And if I had to guess, Tyson Kidd is going to use the Titus O'Neil excuse.
Maybe. But see, the thing is, here's what I could see happening. I don't see Tyson worming his way back in because William Regal, when he made the proposition in Italia, made it seem airtight. I don't think any ambiguity is going to find its way into any of that. What I could see, however, is Titus O'Neil, because he has this fascination now with NXT, he'll want to take the NXT championship. So I could see, kind of like Brodus Clay earlier this year, I could see Titus O'Neil maybe getting 1 or 2 NXT championship matches against Adrian Neville. So that I could see happening, and then we just build further and further. And hell, maybe Tyler Breeze will want to get back in there. He had a very aggressive outing, I think, 2 weeks ago. He's still very sore about the NXT championship, and I feel
and we also need to keep into account Tyler Breeze wasn't even on this show, so there's a very good opportunity there that you just pointed out for him to end up stepping up and being like, you know what? I deserve a one-on-one shot as well, not just Tyson Kidd.
And you know what? Yeah, in fact, really come to think of it, not to go on one of my Randy Orton
because he was, the number 1 contender, we know.
He was the number 1 contender, and he only got that Fatal 4-Way opportunity. He never got another one-on-one opportunity because his first one got screwed by DQ. So yeah, he's a legitimate claimant for contendership. So I'll tell you what, do Titus, do Tyler, then do Zayn, because I think by that point we would have reached the next live special. I would assume, because I think the span is like every 3 months they do one. Or just about. So yeah, you can really space it out that way. Give Titus 2 championship opportunities. Give Tyler maybe 1 really well built up opportunity, so you have more of a story there than with Adrian and Titus. And then you do the Adrian Neville Sami Zayn feud, and you have your NXT championship blueprint for the remainder of 2014.
Yeah, exactly. I really, really hope that they go in that direction, because I think that you really need to keep Sami Zayn in the subtle foreground. And I don't want to say background because that implies that you don't really want him to be a feature on TV, but he needs to be a feature on TV. But on that same note, you want him to be a feature on TV in a way that doesn't really say that he is the number 1 contender, but in a way that you can bring around to being the number 1 contender by late November.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very, I guess you could call it a fragile situation. You need to treat it very tenderly, because if you go too far, then it'll be like you're shoving the Sami Zayn thing down our throats. And if you're too subtle with it, then it'll be like, well, where the frick did Sami Zayn challenging for the title come from? And you kind of need to ride the line in between in order for it to be right. So huge props to the NXT writing team for figuring out how to do it if they do.
I think they will, because
I do too.
Yeah, the thing about Sami Zayn is he's just got such a sympathetic quality. People want him to be NXT champion so bad. So I think when you put other contenders in front of Neville while simultaneously keeping Sami Zayn on everybody's mind, it's just going to generate like, when the heck is this guy going to get his opportunity? We're sick of waiting. If Sami loses, we riot kind of atmosphere.
Yeah.
And yeah, if they do the blow off that you've been saying for a while now, dude, in fantasy booking discussions between the two of us, where if they coincided with the WWE TLC pay-per-view and they get a TLC match, holy crap, nothing else will even compare. That takes match of the year right there. That's it. That's it. That's freaking it. And I hope that's what happens, because these two could have a clinic, and I feel like the NXT writers are really going to make us want it when it's all over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure it's going to be amazing. There's no doubt in my mind at this point. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it seems apropos. Fact. That's it. Just fact, and nothing more needs to be said than that. So, with that said, unless you have anything else you want to say about this main event, we can move on to our next segment.
All right. Well, this was our main event, so let's move on to our next segment.
All right, let's move on to high spots and low shots. For me, easiest low shot in history, Tyson Kidd.
Yeah, he lost his opportunity. He got screwed the pooch by Titus O'Neil and Sami Zayn, and then he got screwed over by William Regal because he can no longer challenge for the title. It's a real shame.
Yep, and JoJo is the ring announcer. She noted
By the way,
NXT.
Wait. That being said, I want to give huge credit to JoJo because, in my opinion, she is the best ring announcer that NXT has ever had.
Yeah, she's pretty terrific. I do enjoy her. She actually seems enthusiastic when she's making the introduction. So
yeah, and she hasn't botched any calls yet either. Like, she actually seems to know what she's talking about. Like, if you go back to that one episode of Total Divas where Eva Marie was the ring announcer for like one match on a random episode of Superstars, and she completely botched it. And friggin' JoJo is nailing it, man. She's really dedicated, and she's gotten off of Total Divas, and like, I'm so proud of her. She's been so good.
she's put in the time, man. She's put in the time, and this is what you get for it. So I, too, will sign on to that. Very proud of her. But to finish my initial point, she did be sure to outline that Tyson Kidd has no more championship opportunities as long as Adrian Neville is champion. So I'm sticking to my original theory that Tyson's new purpose in life is to ensure that Adrian Neville loses the NXT championship. So I think in those title matches that I kind of laid out, Titus, Tyler, Sammy, maybe not in every instance, but I could see Tyson sticking his nose in there somehow.
See, and you know what I think this might lead to that you're not really looking at right now?
What's that?
I think that there is a very minor possibility that this might lead to a Tyson Kidd face turn because of how over he is with the crowd and the fact that he can blame Titus O'Neil for him losing.
That's true. That's true. Or the third option, which I haven't really discussed either, and given recent events may have a greater plausibility than both of our prior theories, maybe this will just lead to Tyson Kidd being fed up and leaving NXT and then just really recultivating something on the main roster, because he had that appearance on Raw.
Yeah.
And he won a match on Main Event recently.
Yep.
So, to me, maybe this is a way to make Tyson Kidd graduate from NXT. Like, if I can't compete for the world title, I don't want to be here. I'm out. Fact. Drops mic and leaves. So there's a multitude of avenues where this angle could go, and that's precisely why I love it, because possibility does exist here. So for now, yes, Tyson Kidd is my low shot.
Yeah. All right. My low shot is going to be Hideo Itami because he got absolutely destroyed by the Ascension.
Makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, as you said, absolutely decimated by the Ascension. As Jason Albert said, total annihilation at the hands of
If
the
only
Ascension.
he would have actually said it like that.
Yeah, he actually did say annihilation, but I thought I'd do it the correct way.
Yeah.
Correct
taunt.
Yeah, correct taunt for the win. Totally co-sign onto your low shot. You know what? As for my high spot, I'm going to do a more obscure pick. I'm going to say Sasha Banks.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot. I dig your pick, my friend.
Because you know what? She picked her spot.
Yeah,
She picked her
did.
spot to make a statement against a babyface who was just fresh off of competing for the NXT Women's Championship not once but twice, so she was the most recent contender. Sasha Banks lays her out, and she makes known her intentions. She's pursuing Charlotte now. She's pursuing the NXT Women's Championship, and she's the only one who seems to know who she is, because like I said, Charlotte seems to be flip-flopping between being good and being bad. Sasha seems to be the only one without an identity crisis and with a clear sense of focus of where she's going to be and where she wants to be going forward. I think Sasha Banks just became a more imminent threat to Charlotte's championship reign, so she is my high spot.
Yeah. All right, my high spot is going to actually, well, here's the thing. I was tempted to say Charlotte because she retained her title. But with Sasha Banks coming after her and Bayley still kind of in the picture, I'm telling you, man, I've been calling it since the day after TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. We're getting a triple threat women's championship match at the next live special. My high spot, that being said, is, you know what? Screw it. I can't think of anything more appropriate, so I'm going to give my high spot to Ty Dillinger because nobody else stood out more to me on this show.
There you go, man. Peck popping gets you a high spot. Awesome.
Well, no, it wasn't even just that. That was probably the most memorable moment of this entire show. But he also showed ridiculous athleticism that I didn't know he had. Like, he did some stuff in the ring tonight that I expected to see from Jason Jordan, that I didn't know Ty Dillinger had in him. Like, every time I see him in the ring, he shows me another reason why I just cannot underestimate this dude.
You know, I'm really glad that you're talking about this guy and we're having a conversation because, you know, again, that's the beauty of NXT.
It goes back to the first match that he was in against Mojo Rawley. I remember pointing out that he was more impressive than Mojo in the match, and like ever since then, it's just been like what is it? I was gonna say an uphill battle, but that implies that it's been difficult.
It's progression.
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, I guess you could say that. It's like it's snowballed. That's the word I want to look for. Everything's kind of snowballed from that point, and I think I've become a full-fledged Ty Dillinger mark.
Hey, dude, I don't blame you. Even though I said it like jokingly and in jest, to me, even a moment as simple as a pack pop, what that demonstrates to me is personality. There's the charisma there and a personality that connects with the crowd. I'd like to see him if he ever gets a solo push.
You know who I kind of compare him to?
Who would you compare him to?
Frickin' Derek Bateman.
Yeah, you know what? That's not a bad comparison at all.
Except I'll go out on a limb and say he's more athletic than Bateman ever was. I mean, Bateman was always decent in the ring, had a good physique, good look, a good personality, but he was never that like crazy athlete that I think Ty Dillinger is. I think that he had, because I don't know 100% for sure, but I'm pretty sure Ty Dillinger does have an amateur wrestling background. And I'm fairly sure that he has some kind of a college sports background as well. I could just be confusing him with Jason Jordan because I know for a fact that Jason Jordan checks both those ticks off. But I don't know. There's just something about Ty Dillinger, man, that it just screams future. And here's the sad thing. It screams future star, but so did Derek Bateman, and look where he is now. He's in frickin' TNA because WWE didn't know what they had.
And you know what? If Ty Dillinger was to have a successful career, I think he's starting out on the right path in a tag team. I mean, we've had this discussion before about how tag teams are sometimes a really great vehicle for future single stars. So Ty Dillinger, yeah, I think he's in the right place, the right time. Everything seems to click. I mean, it's NXT. It's WWE's developmental system where it's all about nurturing the future. If there was ever a chance for a guy like Ty Dillinger to break through, he's in the most appropriate environment possible, and as I said, I'm really glad you're talking about this guy and that he's a point of conversation because you never know when the star of tomorrow is going to emerge. You know, the big guys are always the Sami Zayns, the Adrian Neville's, and for good reason, but Ty Dillinger's deserve just as much a critical eye because you never know when they're going to come into their own. So, great pick for a high spot, and with that said, unless you have anything else to say, I think that wraps up this episode. So I'll close
Absolutely,
this out.
dude. Close it out.
Alright guys, this has been NXT, this has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and discuss this episode on TWitWoW. Subscribe, of course, on YouTube to check out all the episodes there, and we will see you again for our Monday night Raw review, where Big Show defends the honor of the red, white, and blue once again against Rusev, and we have an exclusive interview with Roman Reigns since his successful surgery. We'll talk all about it here. See you then, guys.